Shift at Midnight is a game about working the midnight shift at a rather innocuous gas station, but with a twist. Some of the customers aren't actually customers, but instead horrendous creatures from the pits of hell, and it's up to you, wage slave, to identify those doppelgangers and summarily execute them. Sounds easy enough, right? Well, you are wrong. On top of dealing with the usual crack addict degenerate, guzzling gasoline from the pump, we must also deal with cultists, tall men, and the most horrifying terror of all, your own friends. But what drives us to get this job in the first place? Since I don't want a job, I'm a fat chud and I love being unemployed. And I start to have a fit every time I get a job application jump scare. But we need to, because my beloved pet, oh, that's not nice, has fallen ill, and we must pay for his medicine, which has required us to work this shift at midnight. But how are we, simple minimum wage workers, supposed to determine who is a doppelganger and who is not? Whatever authority in this town has decided to give us a full database of everyone in the area, including their age, work, if they are alive or not, and if they get a single thing wrong, we have the full authority to turn them into meat bits. Anything from having your entire face scraped off to misspeaking about your age, everything results in a quick and brutal death. So with that out of the way, we begin our first of many shifts. Our first customer is Sheriff Clyde. Pay close attention to this man, as he will be very important later. Here we get introduced to many of the key concepts, like questioning people, adding nice decorations, and threatening customers with our firearms. Eventually we find our first doppelganger, who wasn't putting in an awful lot of effort, and after finding he was deceased in the database, we take him out with utmost efficiency. After bagging all his body parts and disposing of the evidence, the night is uneventful until we get a phone call from a guy who's stuck down the road. Yeah, you can have the gun, Josh. Oh! Shoot him! What are you doing?
It's covered in cum. My gun is covered in cum. I got my gun. Okay.
I probably should have seen that coming. After cleaning out the shart in my pants and performing some profession discrimination. Oh, he's in insurance sales. Fuck. That's sad.
Fucking insurance.
Why?
Get him out of here.
We wrap up the day with only getting docked $15 for killing that insurance worker. A job well done. Now I thought that if every day was going to be as easy as this one, we were going to smash this out in no time at all. Ah, if only I knew. After changing around our sign and hearing the dreadful news that the public library shut down, we opened for the day, with our first customer being a grimy old drunk that hates our plants for some reason. He really is living my dream. Before too long, however, the store generator shuts down, requiring all of us to leave the store temporarily unattended, only for us to come back and find that something is not quite right. What the fuck is— Oh my god!
Blicky!
Jeez.
Help me! Help me!
Fucking hell. After this series of events, I would think the game would chill out a bit, but like a wet fart turning into a warm shit. Where there's thunder, there's lightning. Introducing average gas station homeless man loitering outside, and Norbert, the gnome wizard, who tries to serve himself. Hello, Norbert.
What is Norbert?
An unsuccessful fake ID.
Very unfortunately, we need to turn him into a red mist. I'm so sorry, Norbert. Before too long, the day was over, but we had messed up. We had let a doppelganger in, and of course, that meant that the world was ending, and the entity had been called.
In the room here.
What is happening? In a panic, we board up our castle as best as we can, and prepare for the siege. Oh my god, what is that? And after facing horrors beyond our comprehension, we need to finish the day with the most calming of activities: gambling, before I head home to my beloved fat retard. After the eventful day 2, we thought we had seen it all. However, we receive a warning from the ice of doppelgangers, deporting them straight back to hell. This message talks about a creature that is known for ripping the jaws off its victims, and that if you see it, you'll die no less than a week later. All this is rather dreadful news, but I don't care. I just want to go back to serving minors alcohol. Very quickly, this day devolves into chaos. People being gibbed out of existence, homeless people loitering, the usual, but also some new events we had not yet seen. Why is there a cow?
What the fuck?
Why is there a shirtless man? Why is there 2 butt stallions?
Kill him!
What? What? The cow is talking to me. What? Wait, did you guys see
What
the
do you
cow?
mean the cow is... No. You're the only one that...
I had figured that I might have taken too many gas station rhino pills with my Mango Loco monster, so I decided to take a break from all the regular hijinks to stock up the shelves. Before long, the night was over, and whoopsie, we screwed up again. Like last night, we boarded up the storage room, but we had not come unprepared this time around, buying both a shotgun and a landmine that we used to great effect in defending our Ouija cage. And after cleaning up the mess so rudely left behind by our adversary, we call it a day, where we are met with a bill to pay for Fat Retard's medication. Without a second thought, we do, and now he is able to join us for our next shift. A great boon, to be sure. Day 4 begins, and oh dear, new mechanics. As we are a gas station, we are required to fill our customers' cars with gas. Now, I have only ever lived in the most gentrified of neighborhoods, so this is quite a foreign concept to me. But seeing how we seem to be operating in the south side of Chicago, I guess this process is rather justified. But now we need to check the person driving the car and the car itself, because the car can also be a doppelganger for some reason. I don't know how this stuff works, man. Not too long after beginning, the boss calls us up and makes fun of us for being a useless wagey. And like every good employer, instead of hiring professional pest exterminators to clear out a rat problem, he gets his underpaid workers to do it for him. After routine rat extermination, we are blessed by yet another appearance of Norbert, back from the grave to sell lemonade outside of our store. It's Norbert!
Shot me in last time, but that's okay. I decided to sell lemonade.
Now, while we would usually shoo away solicitors outside, it's Norbert, being so graceful as to forgive us for killing him the day before. Since he isn't a customer, we allow him to survive this day. However, this blessing was preceded by a rather dire curse.
This guy's good.
Out-
No, I don't
out
think
the
that's a
back?
dentist. I don't think
No,
that's a
it
dentist.
is. Look over there.
Oh! Oh!
I shot it.
Well, we're fucked. But all good things come in threes, and we are blessed by another character, that being Esteban. Buenos noches, amigo. Don't mind me, these feet won't stop moving, baby. Now, despite what you may think, with his inhuman dance moves, he is completely normal and just high on life. Now, while I have the utmost confidence in our doppelganger finding abilities, the last 2 nights have shown that we can be wrong, as rare as it may be. So just in case we fuck up again, tonight we do a little bit of stockpiling. If the ATF sees this, they'll send out a task force to shoot Fat Retard in a moment's notice. Thankfully though, this was not the case, and we had another perfect day, as expected of absolute servo chads like us. And after enjoying a nice cup of Norbert's lemonade, we head off for the night.
Why am I taking damage? Oh, it's the lemonade.
You drink his
drank Norbert's
lemonade?
lemonade?
Why? After seeing old friends and making some new ones, our spirits were high. However, we did not at all expect the horror that we were going to see in the following days. We begin the next day with 2 quite peculiar events. For one, it's raining blood. No good. And 2, we got word that the store owner has gotten us some art in the back that is supposed to ward off doppelgangers. Hey, maybe I got them all wrong. Maybe... Oh my fucking god.
Oh shit, it's a rat!
Well, it seems that we can't have nice things. But of course, we prepare accordingly. Now, the blood moon makes things a little crazy. An assault is definitely happening tonight. And like a crackhead adding more to his dose, the more doppelgangers we let through, the more fun the assault will get. On top of that, the quality of customers is questionable.
I think that person may have some issues.
I think they just got like really bad, like eczema. Before too long, we get a call from the big man upstairs, telling us that we won't be able to get our weapons tonight until midway through the raid. Oh dear. But then he asks if the painting in the back room was warding off doppelgangers. Painting? Huh? Okay. And it's gone. And it's been replaced by a painting. Well, we won't talk about that. But on the other hand, we are met by a rather holy individual, a monk, who after heavy scrutiny, we decide to let through.
Motherfucker, you on a higher pay grade than us. You may go.
He said sucker! Huh?
What?
But before too long, we are done with the night. And after boarding up the usual entryways, we decide to break with convention and instead hold up in the bathroom. If you were to say to me that this was a terrible idea, since the bathroom is very small, and throwing grenades would be a terrible idea, you would be correct. We did it anyway. Grenade! Oh my god.
You fucking killed me!
And after performing some ritualistic gambling to calm our minds, we headed to the bus, leaving the hardest night so far behind us. Or so we thought. Oh, fuck! The real bus! Where's the real bus?
It's over here.
Oh my god, it's the fucking dentist.
Get in the bus, get
Oh,
in the
press
bus.
the-
In the door.
Jesus Christ. Oh boy, new day, new mechanics. Today we have a scanner that shows a customer's thoughts. Again, minimum wage workers given this power is definitely a choice, but not one I'm going to disagree with. Continuing the day to day and turning our customers into shawarma meat, we see a familiar face yet again. No, Norbert, you can't park there. Sorry, Norbert. As well, we find a person with a rather interesting craving.
I think Betty and some fairy lights.
Oh, this person
Crazy.
is feeling craving human flesh. That's an ugly way to put it. I'd say appreciating okay, that's pickle. Funnily enough, this is a product we have an extremely high supply of. Before too long, however, the lazy fuck manager informs us of what he thinks to be a dying animal in the forest out back, before quickly saying that it's not a dead animal, but instead a bunch of limbs. How did they get there? He doesn't know. And apparently there is a creature roaming around out back as well. Potentially that tall, black man we got the Amber Alert about. So leaving Thomas at the store, Josh and I head into the forest to clean up this mess. I don't like that. All things considered, this cleanup was rather uneventful. But after cleaning up my jockstrap, we got back to the grind. Soon finding the youngest person ever.
Yes.
She's
How do
3
I get
years
a
old.
candy?
She's 3 years old.
As well as a dog. Surprisingly, the dog wasn't a doppelganger. He was just a good service dog, doing his job. Josh, for some reason, after our escapade earlier, thought it would be a good idea to go back into the forest.
The fuck was that noise?
What are you doing? You're just fucking rushing into the woods, you retard.
I touched a bush and something said hi.
Evidently not. And after hiding the gift given so nicely by our manager, we call it a day. Now we had gotten to the point where we were such chads at this game, despite what the number of assaults might suggest, that I am going to speedrun through the events of the next few nights to cut out the bloat, because God knows, I hate videos full of bloat. In the course of our duties, we let through a woman with a real fucked up leg, but Josh decides to execute a man who was unemployed, but said he was working on his fence. Now while we screwed up this night, in the course of boarding up the place, we find this man jutting out of the wall. We place traps underneath him, just in case, but Thomas can't help himself, but shoot him instead.
Shoot this fucker.
Oh!
Oh!
Jesus Christ! Cheap jump scares aside, now we have to deal with shoplifters. We ask them very nicely to return the items they steal, and if they get lippy with us, Josh can use his emotional support blicky to get the message through. In this day as well, we have a rather hairy situation with a customer. Oh, Herbert, that's a good question. Clothes? Oh dear, I knew I'd forgotten something. Now, while I really wanted to serve Herbert, our group judgment got the final say, and Herbert needed to be killed. I'm so sorry, please forgive me. Christmas came early the next day, as we got a new brand spangled piece of technology, the Anomaly Lens. This allows us to scan customers that come in to see if they are different in the anomaly dimension compared to real life, with the differences being quite stark.
We have a black aura. Oh my god, she's going Super Saiyan.
Oh, I see. With this, we start slicing through doppelgangers with peak efficiency. First a woman at the gas pump, and then a fake Sheriff Clyde. However, right after that, we have another encounter with a familiar face. It's it! It's Norbert!
Norbert, get out of here!
Norbert, get out! Norbert, you're disturbing the store! Now, while Norbert was a pleasant sight to be sure, we afterward had a customer that was not welcome in the slightest. What the fuck?
Why'd you shoot her?
Now, this is not the first time we have dealt with the dentist, so I don't believe it'll be long until we perish. 1,000 lashes and your jaw has been snatched. But after being given this figurative death sentence, the bad news keeps coming. we get a letter telling us that if we don't operate on Fat Retard in the next 3 days, then he will die, and that the surgery costs $250, far more than we currently have now. We have to lock in, otherwise our whole purpose for being a wage slave will perish along with us. Between our usually scheduled horror and RCTA... Oh, that's a black guy. That's a black guy with your kids, bro. Photograph. Oh, you found that. Yeah, it's me with my adopted kids. Yeah, fucking kill him.
Bro, I think he's an adopted dad. I think
We get a call from the homeless camp out back, saying that we owe them life.
That's not the boss.
You owe us life.
you owe us life.
Oh, it's the dentist. Oh, it's the people.
Yes, sir. I'm on my way.
Yes, I'm
you
coming
asked.
into the forest. When we enter the forest, we find that the homeless men want us to collect these piss buckets and return them to a coffin so that they can summon their eldritch god. And naturally, we comply. What are we gonna do? I don't get paid enough to care, man. After that interesting experience, we head back into the store to see a rather glorious sight. Whoa! Hello, Vivian. Ah.
Meow.
Meow.
Oh, okay, you should look at her on the scanner.
What the fuck?
She's a seamstress.
Check
Wait.
her on the scanner.
Oh, fuck! Fucking kill her! Jesus. Fantastic representation of almost all the goth women I've ever met. Soon after, we face the final Blood Moon event in our playthrough. We're in the home stretch now, with only a couple days left until Fat Retard's surgery, and nowhere near enough money to pay for it. Given the terrible situation we are in, we might soon be faced with an impossible decision. Oh, I'm so close. I mean, we're so close. On our second to last night, we get an ominous greeting before we start the day. A bad omen, to be sure. And like clockwork, we find a man in the side of the building, spray painting entity propaganda. So we handle it the only way we know how. But this is in fact not how we're supposed to handle this new breed of retarded customer, as we lose $15 for killing this cretin. Keep this loss in mind. After dealing with a rather interesting looking thief and another total nuisance, we stumble across a rather jarring sight in the bathroom.
What the fuck?
What the
You can't park this. Sir.
I have a feeling that this may be the way that the game shows disapproval for our actions, as soon after finding this body, we end the day, and we have not fulfilled quota. Wait a minute, I hear you wondering? There's a quota in this game? Yes. Yes, there is. And in killing that troublemaker at the beginning of the night, we had fallen under it. So what's the solution? Gambling, of course. So Josh and I scurry around the map, trying to pick up as many tokens as possible, while Thomas remains inside testing his luck. Before long, we just managed to scrape through and stay in for a little longer. But at the end of this night, we get a very strange offer. It states that if we call the sheriff and ask him to come in tomorrow, then our beloved pet's medical bills will be paid in full. With a split vote, we eventually decide to call him in. It is now time for the final night, and things are getting just a little bit crazier. What the fuck is in that truck? What?
That's a little bit more meat than we ordered.
Between our routine deliveries and routine executions, we get jumped by a couple of familiar looking faces.
Oh the fuck?
What the fuck is happening? Oh my god! Fake Thomases! And we see a familiar looking character. Whoa! Hey, oh. But after the usual chaos expected of the nights at this point, we face something rather mundane that most retail workers would have experience in, and that's having a massive group of youths come into our gas station and cause trouble. What the fuck? There's so many guys. What the? What? What is happening? There's so many of them. It's a dude breakdancing. Holy shit. Man, I hate retail. Now it's time for the main event. The sheriff arrives at our store, and after doing all the usual checks, we find nothing wrong and send the sheriff on his way. And of course, he gets jumped. We are on the south side of Chicago after all. Finally, we meet him, the dentist. And while we try to show our utmost hospitality...
Hello, sir. How can we help?
Some people just can't be pleased, and we get banished to the Hell Dimension.
This is a nice flesh cabin.
Come on, guys, through the flesh cabin.
Peek around the flesh corners. In the flesh king. Oh.
What
Is that-
is that?
Is that the piss king?
Run! Oh my god. Ah!
Oh.
This is gonna take a while. And so we became stuck in a loop, dying over and over until eventually we see him, the Piss King. And after reaching him, we are returned back to the gas station where Josh is keeled over, waiting to receive. Once the Breaking Bad piss filter subsides, we snap back to reality, where we see the remains of the sheriff, a worthy sacrifice for fat retard surgery fees to be covered by an anonymous source. And with that, we have beaten Shift at Midnight. I give it 7 doppelgangers out of the deer head above the shitter. It's a very fun little game to play with your friends, and you will enjoy it. Unless you don't have any friends, which is very sad. More videos on the way.